Good luck.
Thanks.
Welcome back everyone, and thank you for watching the United Kingdom Speedrunner Gathering. Normally we're a 2-day speedrunning marathon held 4 times a year in Glasgow, Scotland, but due to the situation with COVID-19 we are instead bringing you 3 days of exciting speedruns from the comfort of our own homes to yours. And do you want to get updates for when our marathons go live and when your favourite runs are coming up? Then make sure to follow us on Twitter at UKSG Marathon. That's at UKSG Marathon, and if you use the hashtag UKSG Autumn 21, you could be featured on stream. Anyway, enough of that. We are going to move on to our next run. We have rab1dgamer, who's going to be running Celeste any percent on a guitar controller. Rabid, floor's all yours.
Hi, I'm rab1dgamer, and for some reason I thought it was a good idea to submit Celeste on a Guitar Hero controller. I still don't know what I was thinking back then, but that happened. I'm also accompanied by Mr. Sir71, who will help with commentary.
Hello.
Right, before we get into the run, I just quickly want to take some time to talk about movement as well as the keybinds, which is obviously different. First of all, when it comes to keybinds, my frets are mapped over to movement, so left, right is on yellow and on green and red. Yellow is my duck, up is on blue, and grab is on orange. Then I've got my dash on down strum and jump is on up strum. Right, and when it comes to movement, tricks that you'll see quite regularly is super dashes and hyper dashes. A super dash is just moving on the ground and jumping after a dash right away, which gives you some distance but a lot of height. Hyper dashing is the same, except it's a diagonal down, which gives you more distance compared to a super, and then wave dashes, which is doing it from the air, which gives you essentially a hyper dash, but it refreshes your dash much easier. And yes, then there's also the reverses, which is pretty much just as it is. You dash one direction and you jump into the other. So, I believe if we are ready, I had a donation incentive if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
So I want to know, has that been met?
You
Or a
did
file
indeed.
name?
The sound of this. We had one for a sound effect Easter egg, I believe.
That is
changed the file name
correct.
to Fwahaha,
That
which will
is-
unlock an Easter egg, and I can confirm for you it was met.
It has been met.
Let's go.
Okay. I'm not gonna give anything away, but let's just say our Kevin blocks in chapter 6 is not gonna be Kevin blocks anymore.
Wow.
Just
I've never actually typed this in the game.
yeah, that would be it. Right, so if we can get ready, I'll give a countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Right,
All
so prologue. Not much happening here, so Huds, if you feel like it, you can plug anything for us or read a donation off.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to let everyone know what our upcoming bonus game is going to be. That incentive was indeed met earlier on in this marathon, and that bonus game is going to be our next run after this. I can confirm for everyone out there wondering, Argic is going to be joining us for the bonus game, and he is going to be running Glyph any percent with an estimate of 30 minutes. We are very excited to see that one, so look out, stick with us. We've got this incredible Celeste run, and then Argic will be joining us for that bonus game.
All right.
Very exciting.
So here we go into chapter 1. We've got our dash and everything. So just first death of the day. Great. Was bound to happen.
No worries. So City is actually a pretty technical chapter. Even though it is the first chapter, it's not too long, but the amount of speed tech that you can pack in here is pretty impressive. So kudos to Rabid for pulling these off on a guitar controller. We're about halfway through the chapter now. If you notice in prologue, Rabid did not have the dash ability. So he was actually jumping as much as he could, because that gives you a small speed boost every time you jump.
I think it's like
you
2
won't see that
frames, if I'm
much.
not mistaken.
It's plus 40 to the speed value. So from whatever speed value you're at. So you won't see that much throughout the rest of the game, because we do have the dash ability, and that will allow us to gain a lot more speed than jumping would. A fun fact about the speed mechanic in this game: the horizontal speed is basically uncapped. So if you can find ways to add to your speed, you can continue to go faster and faster, which we'll see, I think, especially in Chapter 6. But that won't happen for a while. So the 90% run for this game, it is reach epilogue from a new file. So what that entails is beating the first 7 chapters of the game. So we're coming up on the end of Chapter 1 here. Yeah. A little bit of difficulties.
I tried to go for a corner boost there that didn't work out so well.
Yeah, that corner boost is really tough. And there's the regular strat to get through the room. And,
Yeah, the
nice.
the other strat that's being used is going up there on the left-hand side, but it's difficult to pull off at the best of times.
Yeah, definitely. So that's Chapter 1. We're going to move our way into Chapter 2 now. And this introduces a new mechanic, based on the dash, of course. That is... this game's very dash-centered. So we won't see that mechanic for the first part of this chapter. As Rab1d moves through, you'll see these blocks that have little like star effects in them. We are going to change the game state a bit to where those they become special, and they actually extend your dash in the direction it was going until you exit the block. So these are pretty neat for speed running specifically.
You want to talk about what I just did there with the cutscene?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you noticed before these stream blocks changed, Rab1d went up kind of to the left of one of the dream blocks, but vertically inside it, if that makes sense. And that's because when you skip a cutscene, it resets your X position, but not your Y position. So that actually warps him inside the dream block, and that way we could just exit that room quicker. So now we've entered Chase, intervention checkpoint. This is where our alter ego, who's really a part of us, colloquially named Badeline, because she's pretty evil for most of the game, chases us around. We cannot make contact with her or we die. That's another thing to talk about too in this game. Deaths simply reset you to the start of the room that you're at. They're not that punishing in a run like any percent, other than obviously erasing some of your progress. In some other runs of the game, though, if you see these red berries that Rab1d keeps going past, in some runs those berries are required, and if you die while collecting one of them, you do not get it, and you have to go back to try to retrieve it again. But yeah, it looks like we're just about done with the intervention checkpoint here, and we're moving in towards the end of the chapter. The end of this chapter is actually a bit confusing, at least casually to me. You kind of reach what looks like the end of the level, and then you wake up. This is all a dream. Those special blocks I talked about or was it? True. Those special blocks I talked about were called dream blocks, so you'll notice they're not present in this section now, which is named Awake. And this section's actually got some really tough platforming, which makes it very cool as a speedrun. And very difficult on guitar to go quickly, definitely. So
yeah, the speed tech used in that section gets pretty insane. You can build up quite a lot of speed, but that involves a lot of inputs per second, which I am not proficient in using on the guitar.
Yeah. Yeah, there's specifically a lot of quick jump inputs throughout the game and in that section. And you'll notice with jump on the strum mechanic on this guitar, it's a bit quick to go quickly because I believe Rabbit said one direction is jump and the other direction's dash. So you can't really spam it.
Most runners have, even myself on ooh, cheeky corner boost over there. But most runners have 2 buttons bound to jump, and on my keyboard I have might or might not have more than that.
Yep.
And having 2 jump buttons allows you to have hold one down to get the maximum jump height. Mr. Sir, if you want to take over on that for me.
Yeah, sorry. So exactly what Rabbit said. If you jump and you hold one of the buttons, the jump mechanic in this game, if you hold jump, you go higher, right? So if you hold jump the whole time, you'll get the full height out of a jump. And if you have a second jump button and continue holding the first jump button and press the second jump button, you can jump again without ever releasing it. So you're guaranteed the full height of the jumps. By the way, we are now in Chapter 3, Celestial Resort. That little friend that Rabbit has just talked to is not so friendly. His name is Mr. Oshiro, and he's the proprietor of this resort. He's a ghost, however, and the resort is quite decrepit and closed down. And this chapter is very heavily cycle-based. You'll notice these little black things with the red outline lying around everywhere and also flying around everywhere. We call these dust bunnies in the speedrunning community. They are a hazard, obviously. You can't touch them, as exhibited there. And
ooh. Almost
nice.
missed the key.
Yeah, I've done that before. Then you gotta do that whole part again. So we're still in the first checkpoint of the chapter here, start, and actually speedrunning wise, this is a seriously challenging checkpoint to do fast. It's very easy to take a death, and the next checkpoint that we go into, ooh, almost got that one. The next checkpoint is going to be Big Mess, and I'll wait till we enter that room. We're about
just went in.
There we go. Yep. This room is ridiculously hard to navigate, especially fast. Like casually, I could barely progress.
This is a real difficult room to be fast. Just ask any tester how difficult it is to test this room, and I didn't interact with the guy.
Yeah, I know a lot of speedrunners. Oh, yep. That's a common mistake. So in the menu, when you're in a cutscene, the option that would normally be the retry button, which brings you back to the start of the room, changes into the skip cutscene button. So obviously we want to click that as fast as possible, but sometimes we do it too early and end up retrying like that. So yeah, this room was really hard to navigate speedrunning wise, and it's a little bit of a favorite, I think, at a high level. So we're going into the books section of Big Mess now. There are 3 buttons basically that you have to push to exit Big Mess. There's a key that you need to unlock, and basically each button removes some clutter from the hotel. And so we choose to do books first to 90%, just because it's fastest. There are other runs who do Big Mess in a different order. There are a few reasons for that. Namely, there is a collectible called a Crystal Heart, with which you can do a warp which makes doing towels first fastest. So, did I say this was books? I'm sorry, that was boxes. This is books. Yeah.
But the part that Mr. Sir was referring to is this one over here.
Yep. Right there. This room's tough, for sure. A little reverse wave dash for you there. Nicely done. Yeah, so we're pressing the second button over here soon. And you'll notice as we go through how much emptier the rooms seem than at first in Big Mess, and that's due to the clutter being removed, which I alluded to earlier. And that actually makes the later sections in Big Mess more difficult, because usually that clutter is actually like shielding you from some dust bunnies.
Ooh, that was a
But
close
now
one.
it's not.
But
Yeah.
the reason of why we go top, bottom, top, middle, is due to the placement of Oshiro, which is the proprietor of the resort. Being it's the most optimal way to do it for any percent.
And the reason for that is that you have to talk to Oshiro between every part of Big Mess, and he always spawns in the same spot when you exit a certain like button press. So yeah, exactly as Rabbit said, this is optimal. So we got the key now, so we're going to move on to the next checkpoint, which is shaft, or elevator shaft. And this one is another one where it's very easy to take deaths. You'll notice a very high density of dust bunnies in all of these rooms.
I think at this point you can explain to the people what a demo dash is.
Yes, indeed. So, this game has a funny dash mechanic that actually gives you a bit of time to redirect a dash after you press the dash button, and that leads to a funny little mechanic we call a demo dash or a crouch dash, and you're going to see this coming up soon. That allows us to squeeze through some gaps. So there's actually a gap in these dust bunnies that we can get through. You can see Rabbit got through it, but then did not quite get far out in the demo dash state. But
It's a bit
on
more
keyboard,
tricky for me.
Yes, exactly. On keyboard, you can find a button which just does a demo dash, and that's it. You don't have to think of it. Rabbit doesn't have enough buttons to that, so he has to do it manually. So he has to press down and dash at the same time, and then redirect his dash to the left here to get through without doing a diagonal dash.
And I believe it's like a 4-frame window that you have.
Yeah, with this setup that you're doing, I believe the 1 pixel is 4 frames, with the peak of your jump being
damn it.
a death frame, and the 2 on either side are safe. So close. So by the way, the reason for doing this...
Did I just really?
Yeah.
Alright.
This is a pretty major sequence skip, by the way. That's the reason that we stop and do this. And you'll notice that Rabbit actually... There we go! Nice. Rabbit had exited the room to the bottom before he started all this, because that means that a death will spawn us right by that exit, instead of all the way back at the start of the room. But yeah, we're moving our way through Shaft now.
And
Last room here of Shaft.
now we're gonna make Oshiro very angry. And he's gonna chase us.
Unfortunately, Battleline was quite rude to him, and now he is extremely upset. So this is actually, again, very challenging section that's easy to take deaths on. So Oshiro, when he's chasing you, if he touches you, it's death, except if you jump on his head, like in Super Mario Brothers, and you bounce up, and you also get your dash back, which is very nice. It's not really used too much in the speedrun, at least of this chapter, but
it is used, I believe, on the seaside.
yeah, there's a couple not strictly required, but definitely intended Oshiro bops in this B-side, and casually it's definitely a good help to kind of recover midair. Yeah, each of these
Well, there you got to see the bot that Mr. Sir was referring to, and it ended up killing me at the same time.
Yep. Happens.
But speaking of the different sides, each chapter has a type you can collect, except for chapter 9, which unlocks extra sides for each chapter, which is just much more difficult versions of the chapters, essentially.
Yeah, so from the A side, you can collect the cassette tape, just like Rabbit said, which unlocks the B side, which is just the same chapter, but kind of redesigned to be a lot harder. And generally, the B sides are actually shorter than the A sides. So there are a couple times in the any percent route where it is faster, optimally, that's the key word, faster optimally to do the B side. And that's in chapter 5 and 6. So you have to do the A side up until the cassette, collect the cassette, and then do the B side. Now, we won't see those in this run, because, as stated, the B sides are much harder than the A sides.
They're much harder, and there's a trick referred to as Bub's Drop that actually makes the B side for chapter 5 faster. A trick that I still haven't managed to do on keyboard, let alone on the guitar. And to have an optimal B side there, you kind of need to do that, otherwise it could just as well be faster for you to do the standard A side.
Yeah, that 5B is actually still faster without Bub's Drop, but it's by a much smaller margin, so you have to play much more accurately and not take a lot of deaths, and that's obviously very tough when it gets harder. So yeah, we will see chapters 1 through 7A here. So we're moving into Golden Ridge now, and this is one of my favorite chapters personally, due to the ambiance. You know, little attempt at an...
We also get everyone's favorite video game platformer trope, wind.
Oh, of course. Everyone loves wind. This is the only chapter where we see wind. And when I say only chapter, that's not strictly true, but you'll see what I mean by that later. Yeah, the wind makes this quite difficult, and there's also a projectile later in the chapter, similar to Oshiro, except they come from the right side of the screen. Snowballs. The same deal goes with those. Ooh, nice. Hold on, I'm going to stop to talk about this. So Rabbit just did a trick called an Archie, and that is when you demo dash into a bubble. This is also the first chapter that we see bubbles. A bubble is kind of like a free dash, at least the green ones. And then you come out of it with the dash as well, so they're pretty nice. When you demo dash into a bubble, it actually bumps your hitbox up by about half the character's height. So Rabbit used that to avoid some spinners and take a more efficient route through the room. And we will see different kinds of bubbles in the next chapter, and we'll talk about those when we get there. But we're moving through Ridge here. Man, I forgot what this chapter is called.
Golden Ridge.
The chapter. It's not important. So yeah, we're about halfway through probably. So you'll notice Rabbit's dashing up next to these walls here, and then shooting off of them. That is a tech called a wall bounce, and that allows us to get a lot of height off of the wall, as opposed to if we had stopped and then wall jumped off the wall, which is pretty neat. You'll see Rabbit's on an auto-scroller block now, that's what we call those. And you'll see those a lot through this chapter and some later ones. Rabbit's actually attempting to skip the intended path through this room, which is simply to ride the auto-scroller block through the room. We're going to use the momentum from already moving on this auto-scroller block, and then we're going to do an extended hyper and dash up into the exit. When I say extended hyper, that is actually a good thing to note for all the speed tech. If you do them correctly, they'll all be extended, and what that means is getting your dash back after you've done them. But if you misperform the speed tech, or there are times when it doesn't matter, you will not have a dash afterwards. And that's something we haven't mentioned also. Madeline, the main character, her hair is red when you have a dash, and after you've used your dash, you see it's blue. So you can't dash again until you touch the ground or a bubble, or a dash crystal. I think we saw some of those earlier and did not touch on them, but there are green crystals that you'll see just in the air.
Green? I
And when
thought
you
they're
touch
yellow.
those, they look green to me, but it's a light green. They just give you dash back. That's all they do.
Right there, you noticed that when I did the hyper, I did not get my dash back. That's because
Yeah.
I either A, ran out of floor, or B, jumped too early and I didn't get my dash back.
Right.
Mind if I quickly jump in a second?
You can.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everyone out there that we are raising money to support Crisis. That's a charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. I'd just like to tell you a little bit more about what they do in their own words. Now, every bit of our work is integrated, and all of it contributes to our purpose of ending homelessness. The services we provide are carefully informed through our decades of experience of working with homeless people and the research we've carried out over the years. Our research is driven by our knowledge from working side by side with homeless people every day, and this influences our campaigning for permanent change. And it's your donations out there that are going towards this fantastic charity, so please do keep them coming in. It's your donations that have allowed us to do things like have bid wars and also unlock certain incentives. I mentioned earlier one of those incentives is Glyph Any Percent that's coming up soon, and for those who haven't heard of Glyph, I just want to let you know what it very quickly is. It's actually a 3D platformer created by Bolvik Games, a company who are based in Copenhagen in Denmark, and that's very near ESA's home. And Glyph is very reminiscent of games like Cooler World, if you remember that for the PlayStation. And yeah, we're going to be showcasing its Any Percent run soon, so it's thanks to your donations we've been able to add games like that to this fantastic marathon, so please do keep them coming in.
Awesome. So we've just been progressing through Golden Ridge here. You may have seen a few rooms ago. There is... It looks like a coin. I call them coins. Some people call them keys. Sometimes when you progress through a room, there are coins that you have to hit to make something happen. It's different in every room. Usually it's a door that opens or a block that moves to a spot where you need it to be to make the platforming possible. And we'll continue to see those in most chapters. So now we are at Cliff Face, where you'll see there's quite a strong wind against us at the moment, and there are also snowballs. And this is very frustrating.
Snowballs are really a pain in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you can see they kind of track your height, and they come on the screen fast. So either you need to stick to a plan, a certain timing where you know where they will all be, or you need to react very quickly to make sure that you don't die to getting hit by the snowballs. And this is a very tough room, and it looks like we're nearly done.
This room has seen many deaths from both me and many other people.
Absolutely.
Another thing to touch on regarding these bubbles is, as mentioned, is they're basically a dash, because what happens is messed it up.
You can just direct the bubbles, right? And you go a dash length in that direction. But a mechanic with the bubbles actually is that once you're in them, there's a timer, and they activate on that timer, but you can also press the dash button and make it happen instantly. So that's what we will be seeing for nearly every bubble. Very few cases where that is not the case. We're nearly at the end here of Golden Ridge, and you see the wind is on our side, which is a very nice change. And now we're out. Very nice. Okay, so that was chapter 4.
And now we're going into the chapter Mirror Temple.
Yes, indeed. Chapter 5, Mirror Temple. This is a pretty cool chapter, ambiance and gameplay-wise. You will notice pretty soon, not just yet, there are a few new mechanics in this chapter. The first one that you'll see are these blocks that move when you dash, and these can be pretty tricky. but they also allow us to get quite a bit of speed pretty quickly.
Right,
So now you see the red bubbles.
But right over here, I'm just gonna try and do a sneaky reverse hyper over there to skip quite a large portion.
Yes, indeed. And that has to do with these red bubbles as well. These red bubbles go until they hit something or until you press dash to get out of them. So these long corridors that you'll see filled with spikes, they're intended to be traversed with the red bubbles. But that little reverse hyper that Rabbit did allowed us to skip through one of those corridors. And you'll see something similar to that later on in this chapter as well. And
Here is a nice corner boost that I really wish I could show off, but it's really
Yeah.
tight and precise, and I can't manage it on the guitar.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. So
Instead,
this checkpoint's yeah,
go
we're
on.
just going to do the regular strat here. This checkpoint's depths. That trick that was referred to as depths corner boost. And what that is basically, a corner boost is holding grab, which lets you climb walls, as you're flying towards a wall right at the top corner and pressing jump at the right time. And the game actually gives you your speed that you had before, plus the bonus from a jump. So not only does it allow you to keep your speed, it lets you go even faster. And you could kind of just fly through the room that Rabbit was in for a bit there. And we are nearing the exit of depths here.
But you
And-
would probably notice that I also crouched before entering one of the bubbles once again. That is another section where the Archie technique can be used to raise your height just enough to grab that ledge to skip going around. Where am I going?
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Oh, you
That was a good
didn't.
one.
You didn't know that you could do Archie there.
No, I do 5B. And
Oh,
I have
yeah.
not done. I haven't done much of 5A.
But you're learning ARP, so
that's-
you're going to make use of it. And another thing here is I'm just going to dash here all the way to the right because, as you can see, it's moving me to the middle of the room just to save that tiny bit of time.
Yep. By the way, I have a 38-minute any percent time, and I run all chapters mostly, which is a much longer run, just for context. I'm not just some guy.
I'm just some guy.
Oh, nice.
No,
Just some guy with a guitar.
Yeah, honestly, my any percent time is not anywhere near as interesting or good as Mr. Sir's.
Yeah, and I should mention too, my time is definitely not incredible, but I can certainly speak on the game. So we are into the mirror now, and this checkpoint, you'll see there's a new enemy. Hooray! These are called Seekers, and as you can see, they track your movements. They do a nice long dash, which can curve a bit to hit you. And Rabbit just used the Seeker to collect one of these coins. This is what I was talking about last chapter. Enemies and other projectiles can actually collect coins for you, which is very nice. And you'll see these enemies don't simply fall off the screen when you jump on them. They kind of go through a respawn animation. And that respawn animation actually gives you a significant boost if you're within its radius, which can be good or bad depending on if you're expecting it. And it can also collect coins like that. I don't know if you use the boost anywhere in 5A.
Not in
can't
5A, no, but it is used in a trick in 5B.
Right. Yeah.
I must say that last coin room went rather very optimal.
It was pretty good, yeah. That looked great.
I just waited
So,
there in
we're
the end just for a bit of safety. And yeah,
Absolutely.
over here,
Now we're entering search.
we're gonna just die quickly, just RNG manipulation.
Yeah, of course. I talked about another trick to skip a tunnel, and that is here. This is called Search Skip. Now, this whole checkpoint is called Search. It's quite long. You have to find a bunch of keys to unlock some doors and take a bubble through this room, or you can do a reverse super, which Rabbit's attempting here, and an up left dash or left dash if you're good, and make it out through this room.
And
So,
something I haven't mentioned is, well, doing supers is rather difficult when you essentially use one finger to do it. To move, going between your buttons. It's much easier for me to slide down from left to right than it is to go from right to left.
yeah, that's a good point. Another reason this run is all the more impressive on guitar. This is an original PS2 guitar, isn't it?
No, this is the original 360 guitar.
Oh, okay. There you go. So now we're into rescue, and this is Theo. We've not met him yet in the speed run, but he's our lovely companion on our trip up the mountain. And in case you couldn't tell from Into the Mirror, this is another dream sequence, I would say. Where these seekers are a manifestation of Maddie's own flaws, just like Badeline is, and Theo's flaws are manifested in this crystal that he's stuck in. So Theo doesn't do much, but the good thing about Theo is that he can go through spikes and the regular hazard, which we call spinners. And we'll see that in use in a few later rooms here. But we do have to take Theo with, always. And as you saw, the Seekers can actually bump Theo out of our hands, which is quite annoying in a variety of scenarios, as you may imagine. And Theo is really hard to move quickly with. Really, really hard, actually. But when you watch like a real high-level speed run, it is ridiculous that they can go nearly at like regular speeds.
Even faster. Theo. Because
with
using Theo, if you do a hyper and pick him up afterwards, I'm actually going to try that over here. You can build an enormous amount of momentum.
Yep, and that one's called a Theo Ultra. That there is a second dash required in there. And an Ultra is when you're going at hyperspeed or
get
faster.
away from me. Sorry.
And you do a down diagonal dash. And that actually multiplies your speed by 1.2. So if you remember how I said the X speed goes nearly uncapped, you can imagine the speeds that we can attain using blocks similar to the one in the last room that Rabbit was in. It's pretty crazy. And Theo Ultras are just a different way to do an Ultra, obviously, while holding Theo. So, yeah, these rooms, very challenging. I'm, again, impressed as we continue through this, watching this done on a Guitar Hero guitar.
Another thing you probably noticed is I'm not able to form dashes while holding on to Theo.
You also cannot grab walls.
Or grab walls or any of those good things.
Yes, so holding Theo is quite an impediment, unless you are exceptionally skilled or practiced at the game. And that's a reason that I actually really like Chapter 5. This is an interesting puzzle to me. So here we're in the last room. This room can get really tough and can go sideways pretty quickly with these pulse waves that are coming here.
They're more frustrating than anything else, but... And you
can die to them.
You can actually
by getting pushed back.
I wasn't sure if it's possible, but well, now I know.
Yes, you can get crushed under a pillar if you do it just wrong.
Right. So,
but anyways, we're
going into
killed the big guy.
now.
Let's move on.
Chapter 6, and one thing I want to make mention of is there's always a constant thing of which is better when it comes to using feathers. No one ever mentioned which one is the worst. It's always which is better, but I can tell you, this is the worst.
Very true. The discussion that Rabbit's alluding to is keyboard versus controller. What's the better input method for this game? And the answer is whichever you prefer. But a big point in controller's favor, usually, is the fact that you can use an analog stick to control your character when you pick up these feathers. It's probably pretty obvious what the feathers do. You can just fly until they run out. Ooh, you dashed out of the feather. It's quite a bit harder on keyboard, and I imagine even harder on buttons in a straight line on a guitar controller.
Okay, so that was Lake Skip. It saved about 4 years of in-game time.
Also known as like 6 seconds, maybe.
Yeah,
that
that would be 6 seconds real time. And here's the donation incentive everyone paid for. So
absolutely.
Normally, the Kevin blocks would have the audio engineer that helped work on the game, Kevin. The noise for them, one that I'm sure everyone is familiar with, but yeah, now it's replaced with the laugh of Covert Muffin. If anyone watched any of his runs for like ESA, I believe he did Hyperlight Drifter for ESA Summer. But yeah, he has a very distinct laugh, and I just want to say thanks to Maddie and Kevin and everyone that decided to put this in, because it's amazing.
Quite good. So as I said, again, we'll be taking the A side through Chapter 6. This is a decision that's actually made by top level runners. Optimally, the B side saves, I think, 15 to 20 seconds over the A side, and it is much more difficult to not take deaths and to get the correct execution. Also, 6A is very has a lot of interesting movement compared to 6B. At cost of lower difficulty and a small amount of time loss.
Yeah, another thing to mention about 6A is there's actually branching paths here, a top path and a bottom path. Some prefer to go like top, bottom, top, because there's like 3 sections where you can cross over. But I prefer personally to just go top all the way through.
Yeah, as do I. As do I. So this is another entity we see here on screen. These are called bumpers. And it's just kind of like a bumper in a pinball machine. They just shoot you off in the direction that you hit them.
And they can get pretty annoying.
Yes,
because
indeed.
As you can see, they kind of float left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Cheeky crouch dash over there. But
absolutely,
that can be a pain, especially in this room.
Can be a pain in a lot of rooms. And there's actually a hidden mechanic with these guys. If you're facing away when you hit them, and in the small period afterwards, you get an extra boost, so you just go even faster away from them. And there are times when you want that for speed or distance, and there are times that you do not want that because there's thinners or spikes in that direction. So, yeah, we see our feather movement on the guitar here. I noticed that Rabbit's been doing some what are called feather boosts, which are when you bump up against a wall soon after gaining control on the feather. That's a pretty advanced strat. It just gives you a little more speed.
Another thing I want to mention about feathers, and this is part of the whole discussion of which is better. On D-pad and on keyboard, obviously by extension, you can when you hold like a diagonal, you get like a short boost of speed. Also, shout out to they've intended shortcuts.
That was wonderfully executed.
And here is our water level.
Yeah,
And that's our water level done.
Moving out of rock bottom here. Nah, I'm joking, of course. So, the title of this chapter is Reflection. And the lore is that we kind of got almost to the top of the mountain, and then we got knocked down by Battleline. And in this chapter, as you see, we fight Battleline. This is the conflict, and soon we will see the resolution to that plotline. And this fight can get quite annoying. She has quite a bit of attacks. You'll notice you just have to touch her to do damage and let her progress through the room. You don't have to dash into her or anything like that. But her bevy of attacks are quite troublesome.
Especially in the later, longer rooms. That can
absolutely.
get a bit troublesome, especially the last two rooms.
I was just going to say that, yeah, those final two rooms in this fight are very long, and she very nicely spews attacks your way. So you can get to the end of one of those rooms and end up losing nearly 20 seconds, depending on your speed through the room. Nice ultra.
I kind of plowed the reversed into the ultra over there. That's another thing that we need to mention. Something that I don't really make use of due to how unoptimized the run is, are ultras, which is when you chain more than one wave. When you chain ultra with wave dashes, and you can build a tremendous amount of speed there.
Absolutely.
Also, I skipped that feather over there, not necessarily because it's faster, but mostly because I can't be bothered with it. It killed way too many of my runs.
And it looks cool, so skip it. Absolutely. You'll see these bumpers again. Entirely avoided in some cases, which is fair. Yeah, this is one of the longer rooms towards the end of the fight. And went through it nicely.
There is another ultra you can do at the end there, but for me it's rather risky, so I opt to skip it instead.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll see the fight increase in intensity here.
And Battleline somehow learned telekinesis.
Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a lot of moving things in this run, or in this series of rooms, and a lot more attacks towards the end. This is quite difficult platforming if you don't have a plan going through the room. It appears that Rab1d does, which is good.
That is honestly a bit of a tricky cycle to make, especially for me, especially when I just enter the room. I pretty much always take a death there. Sometimes in run I would just restart when entering it just to get on the death cycle already.
Yeah, that's an important note too. Anything that's cycle based in this room, when you enter a room, it starts that cycle, right? When you die, there's a short respawn animation, which actually you can make even shorter by pressing the menu confirm button. Fun fact. But regardless, you still start a bit later in the cycle. So most rooms actually have strategy for the death cycle. And even rooms that don't have cycles in them, there's a lot of times when you rely on going quickly through a room. Going quickly through a transition and using that momentum when you enter the room. So there are death strats which do not have that as well. So we're here in Resolution, and we've leveled up. We have a second dash now, which is super cool. And we're going to have that for the remainder of this run through Chapter 6 and Chapter 7. And this is where it really starts to feel good as a player. Movement is even more interesting.
Now, well, with the second dash, things can get a lot more interesting, but you'll also notice we're going to climb the mountain back from the start, and there's going to be a lot less floor.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, we got knocked to the bottom of the mountain by Battleline, but now we're working together. We have the second dash, and we're basically going to recap all the chapters we've done so far. So you'll notice at the beginning of each section here, just at 0 meters, it takes us through climbing the mountain. So each section will have a distance value assigned to it. So this is in the style of the reflection chapter at the bottom of the mountain. One thing I don't think I've touched on is these springs. They also give you your dash back. And you'll notice sometimes Rabid dashes back into a spring after he hits it. And that's just so that he can hit it at a higher point on the spring. Which just lets you get more height off of it. And each section of Summit, of which there are 0 meters through 2,500 meters, and then 3,000 meters. I separated them out because I'm a speedrunner, but there was definitely no need to do that. Each of them ends with what we call an orb room, which is where Battleline helps us scale a room.
I've been running this game for years, and I still didn't know that's what people referred it to.
Yes, indeed.
And
so we're out of 0 meters now, moving to 500 meters, and this is themed after Chapter 1, Forsaken City.
But with those orb rooms, a lot of people tend to go for that cutscene skip at the end as soon as possible because obviously time save.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the same can happen as what happened with me during
Chapter 3.
Yeah, during Chapter 3, where I accidentally retried.
Absolutely. I've always been I've always been very cautious with those cutscene skips because those orb rooms are so long. I just wait until Madeline splits into Maddie and Daddy. Personally, I know you can go earlier than that, but too risky for my taste. Nice. So we've got these falling blocks here. You saw us utilize one when we were in Chapter 1. You don't really have to utilize them here in Summit, but you can. That's the intended strat. Ooh, almost got this lovely little skip.
A little kick on the a wall kick over there to bring me up to grab the traffic block, but I was unfortunately not up high enough. And welcome to Dream Blocks again.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I'll not go for that. And the thing, I don't know, did you mention it, sir, that you can jump out of the Dream Blocks?
I did not, and that tech is called a Dream Jump.
It's
and
actually
it's just the same.
It's something that's actually taught to you during the B-side of Chapter 2.
Yes, indeed. So you'll come out with that dash momentum, and then you'll also be going up as you press the jump button. There are also Dream double jumps, and I think I've heard of a triple jump, but I have no idea what goes into that. And that's just pressing jump just before you exit the dream block and also just after. And there's also another tech popularly used in these rooms, and actually Rab1d did one, which is a dream hyper, which is getting hyper speed out of a dream block. Ooh, unfortunate. And that does use a dash. If you remember when I was talking about extending your hypers, you cannot extend the dream hyper, so you have to be aware of that.
The game only sees the first 2 frames from exiting the... I think it's 2 frames. From exiting the dream block as you being on the floor, hence why you're able to do the dream hypers.
Nice, I didn't know that was why. Very cool. So we're out of 1,000 meters now into 1,500 meters, resort themed, of course. I can't believe you didn't go for the hard demo at the start of this room, Rab1d.
You expect me to go for one of the demos that needs to...
There's a reverse wave dash or a reverse hyper.
Yeah, reverse
into
wave
a
dash
demo
into
dash.
a hyper over there. It's very
Yeah,
precise, hence why a setup is used for it.
Exactly.
And because of
just
the
poking
aforementioned, I need to do it the old way. Yeah, I'm not really able to perform it.
Exactly. Now, Rab1d says the old way. And so I mentioned earlier that you can simply have a demo dash button. But that is a recent addition, actually, to the game. With the, I think it's 1.4 patch.
It's on 1.4 where they added in.
Yeah. But before that, you either had to do it manually or you had to kind of go into the game files and bind a button yourself,
which is literally just binding your down and your dash together.
Yeah. Yep.
Mind if I quickly jump in?
You can quickly jump in.
Thank you, yeah. On behalf of everyone here at UKSG, we'd just like to extend our thanks to ESA for supporting this marathon. Besides providing us with their channel for streaming, they are sharing their gear, their technical assistance, and their sponsors with us. And be sure to check out ESA's next event, which will be ESA Winter 2022. It will be happening sometime in February 2022. We'd also like to thank BSG for supporting this marathon as well. They hold bi-monthly gatherings in the Netherlands, and they've supported UKSG from the very beginning by spreading the word and providing us with a channel to stream on in past sessions, amongst other things. Mark your calendars for that as well, because their next event will be coming soon, and it will be streamed on this very channel, so you won't have to go very far to watch it.
Very nice. So you'll notice these floors that Rab1d is standing on that have the little hairy bits coming off of them. They were also present in Chapter 3. Did not get to talk about those. Those actually, once you've touched them and left them, grow the dust bunny material, and they do damage to you if you touch them.
It essentially
so
turns into a game of the floor is lava.
Exactly. So those are a fun little puzzle. I don't think we see any of them in this 90% run, but there's a cool exploit where you can actually touch them and then jump off of them.
And then wave
The
dash
reason you
into
do
it.
that
You
is to
actually
do a wave
did see
dash.
it.
Yeah.
It was just too quick to notice.
Fair enough.
And
Basically, there's just a minimum time from when you first touch them for the dangerous floor to spawn, so you can kind of bypass that rule. And the reason that you want to do that is just to get your dash back for the wave dash. Otherwise, you just wave dash on it regularly. So we're in 2K meters here, Golden Ridge themed. And we see our favorite bubbles again. Ooh, almost got that wall bounce. There we go. That's a cool little skip, going a quite different way up to this area than was intended. This is kind of an alternate route. There's a berry that you get, which leads you to this route more naturally if you had gone left in the first room instead of up. But here we are. We got our snowballs again, which are quite lovely.
yeah, the room I just went through, there is a way to do it without touching that moving block. but it's rather precise once again.
Yes,
That
indeed.
is a
referred to
sentence
as-
that you'll hear over and over again when it comes to tricks that top level runners use is precise.
Yes. Absolutely. Very precise. Frame precise and pixel precise. So yeah, these are just two auto-scroller rooms in a row here. The first one, you can skip the auto-scroller. Guitar Hero controller. Obviously. So we are nearing the end of 2K here. You can see this wind is quite stiff, you can barely walk against it. Which makes platforming very difficult. Very difficult through these rooms.
You can also do it without this room without activating any of those bottom blocks. But
Ooh.
I didn't have enough height. And I actually
Oh,
just
well, we're back.
messed that one up. But
Yeah, you almost got it the second time around.
I ran out of stamina. But that's the thing. Stamina.
Oh no. Yes, absolutely. You can only climb so high on a wall. If you grab a wall and attempt to climb up for a while, you'll start flashing red, like Maddie did on the previous attempt. And no longer be able to grab a wall. You'll instead slowly slide down, and that will prevent you from activating blocks that require being grabbed or stood on. And it also prevents you from climbing. So here we're in the orb room of 2K. This room is extremely difficult because, as you see, there is wind in parts of it, and there are also spinners everywhere. Just everywhere. It was a well done orb room. 2500 with the temple theme. Of course, starting out with a red bubble. Big part of this theme. That and spikes.
Yeah, there's a corner boost you can do into this room. That is, well, honestly, I haven't even learned it. I just know it looks cool.
Yeah, I've never pulled that one off myself either, but it does look cool. Some nice momentum from these blocks here. Yeah, 2,500 meters is one of the trickier checkpoints in Summit for me. Summit is what Chapter 7 is called. And here we're
Cheeky
doing a little skip.
spike jump and a retry there, and now we're at the bottom. Now I've got the key.
Yep. Exactly. Usually you'd have to go below this hub room to take a red bubble up there. But as I said, we like to skip the red bubbles to go quickly.
But a thing I didn't mention is there's certain spike jumps that's rather difficult to pull off if you only have the one jump button.
Yes.
One is basically impossible, which is the one in Chapter 3, and the rest of them are just very tight timing.
Yeah.
In
And that's
the
just due to
8%
needing
round.
the full height. Right. That's just due to needing the full height from the first jump, like we were talking about earlier. We got a little door skip going on here.
Failed the second door.
Yeah. Sad. So these gaps are actually wide enough where we do not have to demo to get through them. Now, normally you would because it makes it safer and easier. But a manual demo is a bit difficult to pull off, and since it's not necessary, it's usually fine not to do them in that room if you don't have a demo button. And we're in
It's
the orb
just
room with
rather
2500.
unviable.
Yes. Higher risk to mess something up rather than the safety of doing a demo dash. So
And now we are at the actual summit of the run.
yeah, this is 3K, the top of the mountain, and it looks it. Lots of vertical climbing in this section, and we get to see another guest appearance for my favorite game mechanic, wind. There's a lot of wind in 3K. And in fact, other than this first section and the very last section, there will always be wind. So we've entered downdraft here, and this is actually casually quite a difficult part of 3K. but it's actually kind of a favorite for speedrunners because the more we touch the ground, the more we can have a dash, so the faster we can go.
But it's only
But-
useful if there's actually ground to touch.
Exactly. Exactly. So you'll notice each flag that Rabbit goes past. If you touch the ground next to the flag, that makes it a checkpoint for you. And you may notice they're counting down to 1. And when we hit flag 1, that will be the very last part of the run. So that was flag 22, coming up on flag 21 here. I'm not going to count flags, I'm just commentating. That's a very silly meme. That's the last community.
Another
And it looks...
a nice thing that downward wind does, it's not really a viable strat to do, but it can save you in a pinch sometimes, is downward wind has a odd way to interact with spikes. And
Yep.
you can essentially jump up from them. When you are pushed into a spike or a spike is pushed into you, you can jump up from you. I believe it's like a 1 frame or so, where you can jump off
Yeah.
of it. Actually, not really something
That
that's
depends.
a viable constant strat,
Yeah.
but
You may have heard us use the word spike jump throughout the run, though. And it's the same concept, pretty much. If you're facing the same way as a spike, you can pass through the hitbox as long as you're facing the same way, not moving the opposite way. And as Rabbit said, if wind pushes you that way, then it does not count and you do not take a death. So we entered upwind now, which is notoriously annoying to speedrunners. Because
more
most
favorable
flags are
for
quite
casual
long.
players.
Yeah. Gives you some time to think, which is very nice casually. But yeah, deaths on these flags are quite long, usually, because of the increased fall time. And a mechanic we haven't touched on really is fast falling. If you hold down while you're in the air, you actually fall quicker, and the Madeline sprite kind of stretches out due to that. So we're here at flag 13, which is a fairly notorious flag for time loss, both because it's quite long and quite hard. And it ends with this very precise squeeze through some spinners. Well done by Rabbit.
That's a section I practiced a lot due to how notorious it is.
Absolutely.
But we mentioned
try
stamina now. Now it's about time to mention neutral jumps as well, because I
Yes.
did actually make use of it earlier.
Yes. So on flag 12 there, that was a pretty cheeky neutral jump by Rabbit around a spinner. When you're on a wall, if you do not hold a direction when you jump, you actually jump less far away from the wall than you would if you were holding a direction other than up or down, I should know. And that can actually let you scale a wall entirely. If you're out of stamina and it's just a vertical wall, you can do neutral jumps and jump up the wall the whole way. It's pretty cool. By guiding Madeline back to the wall between each jump, obviously. And Rabbit used it to get around a spinner and get back to the wall, which is really only possible in updraft. Definitely.
The updraft gives me the extra bit of height to be able to do it.
Absolutely. All right. We're entering the last bit of updraft here. And we're nearly at the end. This is like 6.
5, 4.
Here we go. Yeah, right. These ones go pretty quick. Nearly at the end of the run here. These flags are still just as challenging as the ones before, even though there's no wind. Maybe even a bit more challenging without the wind.
This is
Man.
one of the feathers that's really one of the difficult ones for me.
Yeah, definitely. this one's cool because you also have to try to get as far as you can with the feather, right? So one mechanic with the feathers is if you turn sharply, you actually slow down a lot, and they run out on a timer. So you want to get as far as you can with the feather. And here on flag 3 is another time we use the feather, and this one is just awful, to be honest with you. It's quite difficult. So this one causes a lot of deaths.
Yeah, especially now for some reason.
Anything can happen. Absolutely. Nice.
And we're here on flag 2.
Nice. The exit from flag 3 is there's so much pressure because it's hard up to that point, and it's also a real difficult part of the flag. So well done on that. Flag 2, the penultimate flag. Yeah, you can see a lot of dash crystals being used as well. That's especially prevalent in Summit with the double dash ability. That's kind of the flag there for Summit, is dashing a lot and also having a lot of spinners.
Right, flag 1.
Yes. We got a blue raid too.
And the flag 1 death, which is inevitable.
Yeah, so flag 1 is actually like super technical if you want to go fast. It is so input dense because there's so many dashes you can do, because we actually do have floor for most of this. So we can do a lot of dashes. But there's also a lot of spinners, so you have to meter those. There's been a lot of unfortunate moments on PB pace at flag 1.
And that's time. Sorry, got to give a countdown, but that's time.
Yeah, there you go. That's Celeste 20%.
Celeste 20%.
On a guitar controller.
On a guitar controller. My arm hates me. My hand hates me.
GG's.
But yeah.
Well done.
So, yeah.
Almost PB too.
Yeah, that's about my... I think my keyboard PB is 10... No, sorry, it's a 58. So that's actually not far off.
That's a pretty good run on guitar. Wow.
I'm not gonna lie, that is. But yeah. Shoutouts. Well, first of all, if I can do shoutouts,
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to give shoutouts to my girlfriend for actually supporting me through all of this, pushing me to actually do this and practice for this. Also want to give a huge shout out to Maddie Thorson and Extremely OK Games. Amazing devs. They really support the speedrunning community. As explained earlier, they rather add things rather than patch it out as an intended mechanic, as like with the demo dashes. And just the Celeste community overall. Mr. Sir, you've got any shout outs?
Just a rabbit for this crazy feat of platforming on what is absolutely not a platforming input device.
Yeah, I still don't know what I thought doing this, but well, here I am. Yeah, and I believe that will be it for me then.
No worries. Well, thank you very much for that impressive display of skill on a guitar controller of all things. An incredible run there, Rabid. Well done. Stick around, everyone. Coming up next, we have our bonus game that you've managed to unlock with your very generous donations. We're going to have Argic running Glyph any %. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.